David Benavidez team said they sent the contract to Canelo Alvarez. How official is that, or that was just talk?
No, it really was official. I mean, look, Samson is the co-promoter, so he is, that is an official offer, and it's clearly backed by PBC.
Dante's Boxing Nation, what's going on, guys? So the last time the walls closed in on Canelo Alvarez, he ended up suffering a second loss on his record, and that was to Dimitri Bivol. Now the walls are closing in on Canelo again. So before Canelo retreated to DAZN for asylum, he was presented one of the biggest deals ever by PBC. It turns out Canelo was definitely going to get the Jamal Charlo fight and the guarantee he wanted, but the catch was he would have to fight David Benavidez in September. So Canelo basically said, I can't fight nobody else? You guys don't have someone easier for me? And PBC said, nah, man, you're going to have to fight David Benavidez. That's when Canelo Alvarez said, okay, adios, amigo. He jumped right off of that cruise ship and migrated straight to DAZN. You see, all this broke talk is just stuff that racist people make up because Al Heyman is the most powerful man in the sport of boxing. Not just because he runs PBC, but because he's the most powerful man in the sport. I mean, Jose Benavidez Sr., he's already confirmed that Canelo's team actually reached out to them. Canelo's team, they said they were interested in the David Benavidez fight, but David would have to take the minimum. Jose Benavidez, he said that the minimum is $5 million. And despite the fact that David already makes more than that right now, they said they will take the offer. And after they accepted the offer, they didn't hear from Canelo's team anymore.
Then we get a call. I get a call from Samsung, and they said that the camp for Canelo Alvarez wanted to take that fight, but the only way that they would take the fight is that we would take the minimum. And I said, sure, no problem. We just want the opportunity, to fight. Let's make it happen, And we said,
now, what is the minimum?
The minimum is $5 million. That's what he wants to pay everybody. That's the minimum. Right now, David gets paid that for fighting other fighters. And right away, we said, yes, let's make it happen. We want the opportunity to fight the best at 168. So we said yes to it, and then both of them disappear. Munguia and Canelo disappear. So I think they just wanted to test us and see. They thought I was going to ask for more money, and they could have said that they did offer us and we wanted more money, but we were willing to take the minimum. David right now makes more money fighting other people than fighting Canelo Alvarez.
This is further confirmation from Jose Benavidez Sr. and his promoter, or the promoter of David Benavidez, that the offer was on the table and Canelo Alvarez, he turned it down. You guys have to understand something. This whole broke talk is a complete deflection because David Benavidez's Canelo Alvarez is mandatory. So let's just say hypothetically, PBC, they were going out of business. They're broke and we ain't going to see PBC no more after this year, right after they just signed this massive deal with Prime Amazon. But let's just say that were the case, hypothetically. Because David Benavidez's Canelo Alvarez is mandatory, they don't even need PBC to make the fight. They can go anywhere and make that fight if Canelo Alvarez really wanted to fight as mandatory, because they could take the fight to purse bid. And that means the promotional company with the most money would be able to host the fight. So even when Canelo goes over to DAZN, he still has no excuse for avoiding his mandatory. When Canelo went to DAZN, he should have been making the David Benavidez fight and the Dimitri Bivol fight. But he's not trying to make either one of those fights. In fact, Eddie Hearn, who's been desperately trying to get on Canelo Alvarez's good side ever since he came back to DAZN, and I use the word desperate because that's the word Eddie Hearn used. Before Canelo Alvarez left DAZN, Eddie Hearn, he literally said, we are desperate to be in the Canelo Alvarez business. So it's just so ironic that the only time you hear fans say he's on a payroll is when they're talking about a black boxer. But they never say this when it comes to a boxer who's not black. Eddie Hearn is literally on Canelo Alvarez's payroll, and every single thing he says is in representation of Canelo Alvarez. Eddie Hearn will literally go out on a limb and lie for Canelo Alvarez. Eddie Hearn, he would be willing to get sued for defamation and slander just to lie for Canelo Alvarez and keep Canelo fighting for DAZN. But Eddie, he was willing to do all of these things before, and Canelo, he still left DAZN and went to PBC because they were trying to force him to fight Dimitri Bivol. Isn't this funny? When DAZN was forcing Canelo Alvarez to avenge his loss and fight Bivol, that's when he jumped ship and he went to PBC. Now that PBC is forcing him to fight David Benavidez, he jumps ship and he goes right back to DAZN. I mean, you can't make this stuff up, man, I'm telling you. So the reason why I brought up Eddie Hearn in the first place, because Eddie Hearn, of course, he's been saying a lot of things in different interviews. But a while ago, way before Eddie Hearn knew that Canelo was going to be going back to DAZN, Eddie Hearn, he actually made a prediction on the David Benavidez versus Andre fight. And he said David Benavidez will stop Andre. And he said when he does, that's when Canelo Alvarez is going to fight David Benavidez. Now, of course, that didn't happen. And then later on, Eddie Hearn, he did another interview, and he said, well, you know, the reason why Canelo is not fighting David Benavidez is because he wants to avenge his loss to Bivol first. He's going to avenge his loss to Bivol, and then he's going to fight David Benavidez. We know that didn't happen either, because we know that Canelo Alvarez is trying to fight Jaime Munguia and Berlanga, not in that order. He actually wants to fight Berlanga first, and then fight Munguia, which is causing another conflict with DAZN. He leaves PBC and now he's unable to make an agreement with DAZN because Canelo does not want to fight Munguia first, which makes absolutely no sense. And then Oscar De La Hoya, he comes out and he says, I don't see the Munguia fight happening because we don't have the type of money that Canelo Alvarez is asking for his guarantee. He said, who's going to pay Canelo the money that he's asking for? Now, regardless of what you think about Oscar saying that and why he said that, just imagine if Al Heyman or Leonard Ellerby or someone who works for PBC said exactly what Oscar De La Hoya just said right there. That would be used as smoking gun evidence to prove that they are broke or just say they're broke, right? But of course, coincidentally, all of the people who said that PBC is broke, none of them has said that DAZN or Oscar De La Hoya and Golden Boy Promotions are broke. We know what time it is. The reason why DAZN doesn't want to put Canelo in there with Berlanga first, because they know that would be perceived as a massive mismatch and it wouldn't do good numbers. So, matter of fact, Eddie Hearn, he even came out and admitted that Berlanga wasn't ready. He said maybe Berlanga needs at least one more fight so he can prove that he's actually ready for a Canelo Alvarez fight, which obviously makes sense. The only way you would be able to sell a Canelo versus Berlanga fight is if Berlanga was put in there with a top 10 super middleweight with a name. I'm not talking about some guy in the top 10 that no one's ever heard of. This is the reason why the Canelo versus Munguia fight makes more sense if Canelo Alvarez is going to cherry pick out of these two opponents. Because Munguia, he's already been in the ring with Derevyanchenko, he's been in the ring with John Ryder, and he looked impressive in these performances. Or at least he definitely did in the John Ryder fight. But for some strange reason, Canelo Alvarez, he wants the Berlanga fight first. So basically, DAZN is on the phone with Canelo Alvarez, and they're telling him this. They're telling him, look, right now, Berlanga, he hasn't proven himself. He needs to take on a tough challenge first. You know, it's going to look like a complete mismatch. He's not ready to fight you right now, Canelo. And Canelo says to them, duh, why do you think I want to fight him? And then DAZN, they say, well, Canelo, we're going to lose a lot of money. You know, we've already lost money on you before. And that's pretty much how the conversation went. You know, when Canelo Alvarez, when he left DAZN the first time, Eddie Hearn, he actually said, and I quote, I'm not just saying this, but honestly, DAZN is fine with losing Alvarez. It got to the stage where not every Canelo fight was a success for DAZN. And then later on in this article, he said, now, if we had the Charlo fight or the Benavidez fight, things may have been a bit different, but we don't. You see, Canelo Alvarez, he was over there robbing DAZN blind. He was like, wow, they're going to let me fight whoever I want and pay me top dollar for it? Oh, man, well, I'm about to make it rain with cherries and tomato cans on DAZN. And once DAZN realized they were losing money and every fight wasn't a success with Canelo Alvarez and his cherry picking, that's when they said, hey, Canelo, I'm sorry to give you the bad news, but we're going to have to start putting you in there with tough competition. Because at this point, the only one making money is you, not us. And this is the reason why the Makabu fight never took place. That was the fight that Canelo wanted. Canelo never wanted to fight Bivol, but DAZN, they forced him to fight Bivol because they knew they would lose even more money putting Canelo in the ring with Makabu, or at least paying for that fight. So even though it took DAZN years to stop the bleeding, they managed to survive. And now they want to make some of that money back that they lost. But it ain't going to be easy because so many people want the Canelo versus David Benavidez fight, which is going to actually hurt the numbers when it comes to a Canelo versus Munguia or a Berlanga fight. The only fight that would really be a serious success for Canelo Alvarez outside of the David Benavidez fight is the rematch with Bivol, because that's who he lost to. And by the way, before I wrap this video up, something else I forgot to mention is another option that they have for Canelo Alvarez when it comes to PBC is fighting against David Morrell. So even if he didn't want to fight against David Benavidez, they were going to feed him to David Morrell. And when Canelo Alvarez heard that, he was like, don't do me no damn favors. With friends like y'all, I don't need no enemies. Let me go somewhere else where they gonna look out for my health, because y'all over here trying to get me hurt. With that being said, I'm gonna wrap this video up. That's all I got for now, guys. I'm on to the next one.
All right, now check this out, guys. If you're looking to repair eczema scars, burns and bruises, dark spots and blemishes,
Fever blisters, diabetic ulcers.
this right here is the perfect product for you guys. It's called Elo Diki Face and Body Oil. Athletes and top-ranking boxers, they're also using it after training to reduce swelling, inflammation, and to ease the pain. So get yours today. Go to elodiki.com.
Like them on Facebook and follow them on Instagram.
Fellas, I've got some great news for you. If you've lost your hair or have a receding hairline, the time has come when you can finally get your hairline back through a process called scalp micropigmentation. So here's how it works. It's a hair tattoo that replicates the look of your hair follicles when you have fully shaved it down. So to get this hookup, make sure you follow and contact my man Scalp Carolinas on Instagram.
Let me tell you guys about Issa Israel Law Firm. It is a full-service legal practice based in Denver, Colorado, an emerging hub for combat sports and high-altitude training. If you're a fighter inside or outside of the ring and you need a law firm you can trust to fight for you, visit thefighterfirm.com or email help@iilawfirm.com. Legal representation is usually limited to plaintiffs or defendants in Colorado, but iFirm can help anyone in the world with trademarking their business name, logos, and U.S. immigration issues. This brother has been my attorney for a while and helped guide me through all kinds of business and civil issues, so make sure you guys go to thefighterfirm.com.